This next song, I would like to dedicate to every single fan out there.
What happens when childhood fame, family dysfunction, and millions of dollars collide? The Carter family story reads like a Hollywood nightmare, but unfortunately, it's all real. From the heights of global stardom to devastating personal tragedies, this is the rise and fall of America's most troubled pop dynasty.
It's the tragic death of a young performer, and now family, friends, and fans around the world are suffering the loss.
I'm about to take you through a story that spans 3 decades of fame, fortune, and family destruction. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the Carter name became synonymous with both incredible success and unimaginable tragedy. This isn't just another celebrity scandal, it's a cautionary tale about the dark side of the American dream and the devastating cost of fame on vulnerable young minds.
Carter tweeted hours before the show that he would not make it because of transportation issues.
The story you're about to hear involves exploitation by industry predators, family betrayal on an unimaginable scale, and a pattern of addiction and mental illness that claimed multiple lives. However, it also reveals the humanity behind the headlines and the desperate search for love and acceptance that drove every. The story begins in 1980 when Robert and Jane Carter welcomed their first child, Nick, into the world in Jamestown, New York. However, this wasn't just any ordinary family. They were driven by ambition and a relentless pursuit of success in the entertainment industry. Jane Carter, a former nightclub performer, had tasted the entertainment world and was determined that her children would achieve the fame that had eluded her. The Carters relocated to Florida when Nick was young, chasing dreams and opportunities in a state that was becoming a hotbed for entertainment talent. Jane Carter, in particular, had her sights set on transforming her children into stars. She worked multiple jobs to support the family while Robert struggled with his own demons, including alcohol and financial instability. Nevertheless, nobody could have predicted the magnitude of success or the devastating consequences that would follow.
Take your love away from me. Come to leave my heart in misery. Here you go. Open up your heart to me.
From an early age, Nick showed exceptional musical talent. He could sing, dance, and had a natural stage presence that captivated audiences. Jane recognized this gift and began entering him in local talent competitions and auditions. However, the relentless pursuit of success meant that Nick's childhood was increasingly structured around performance and ambition rather than play and normalcy. In 1987, Aaron Carter was born, and the family dynamic shifted dramatically. With 2 potential stars in the household, Jane's ambitions doubled. She began grooming both boys for entertainment careers, but the pressure was particularly intense for Aaron, who was expected to follow in his older brother's footsteps. Nevertheless, Aaron showed his own unique talents from an incredibly young age. By age 5, Aaron was already performing alongside Nick at local venues and family gatherings. His natural charisma and voice were undeniable, but the early exposure to performance culture would prove both a blessing and a curse. The other Carter children, Leslie, Angel, and eventually BJ, watched as their parents' attention focused primarily on the 2 boys with commercial potential. Despite their entertainment ambitions, the Carter family struggled financially throughout the late 1980s and early 1990s. Jane worked as a bartender and in various service jobs while managing her children's budding careers. Robert's drinking problems and inability to maintain steady employment added stress to an already complex family dynamic. However, Jane remained convinced that her children's talents would eventually lift the family out of poverty. The early 1990s witnessed an explosion in boy band culture. Groups like New Kids on the Block were selling millions of records and creating a template for success that would define pop music for the next decade. The formula was simple: attractive young men with complementary vocal styles, synchronized choreography, and carefully crafted images designed to appeal to teenage girls worldwide.
Out on a stump one day.
Yeah.
They say that breaking up is hard to do. Now I know that it's true.
Orlando, Florida, had become the epicenter of this boy band revolution. The city offered lower costs than Los Angeles or New York, but still attracted industry professionals looking for the next big thing. Talent scouts, managers, and producers were constantly searching for young men who could fit the boy band mold. Nevertheless, the competition was fierce.
Behind it all. His name is Lou Pearlman, and he was responsible for the most iconic boy bands of all time. But there was an ugly side to the glitz and glam of the boy band craze. While Pearlman was bringing together groups such as the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, he was also engineering the longest-running Ponzi scheme in U.S. history. Just how?
Enters Lou Pearlman, a businessman who had made his fortune in aviation and was looking to diversify into entertainment. Pearlman recognized the commercial potential of boy bands and established Transcontinental Records with the specific goal of creating manufactured pop groups. His approach was methodical and business-focused, treating musical acts like products to be developed and marketed. However, his methods would later prove deeply problematic.
I do anything just to have you. I'm ready for romance.
In 1993, 13-year-old Nick Carter auditioned for what would become the Backstreet Boys. The group was Lou Pearlman's vision of the perfect boy band. 5 distinct personalities that would appeal to different segments of their target audience. Nick, with his blonde hair and youthful appearance, was positioned as the group's heartthrob and youngest member. However, the American music scene wasn't ready for them. Grunge rock dominated the charts, with acts like Nirvana and Pearl Jam representing the antithesis of polished pop music. Record executives viewed boy bands as manufactured and inauthentic, making it nearly impossible for the Backstreet Boys to secure an American record deal. Nevertheless, Pearlman was determined to prove that his concept could succeed. Instead, the Backstreet Boys found their initial success overseas. European audiences, particularly in Germany, embraced their harmonies and choreographed performances. The group's first single, "We've Got It Going On," became a massive hit in Europe while barely registering in the United States. However, this international success would prove to be just the beginning of their incredible journey and the foundation for future global domination. For Nick, the transition from regular teenager to international pop star was both exhilarating and overwhelming. At 14, he was performing for thousands of screaming fans across Europe while his peers were worried about homework and high school relationships. The experience was intoxicating, but it also meant missing out on normal developmental experiences that would later prove crucial for emotional stability.
Star Nick Carter is carving out for himself in Tampa.
Welcome to the jungle.
And it is a sharp contrast
Do you want to see it?
to this.
You gotta stick with it, okay?
Let it go. And know you'll find your
Meanwhile, back in the Carter household, young Aaron was watching his older brother's success with fascination and envy. At just 7 years old, he was already being groomed for stardom by Jane, who saw an opportunity to capitalize on Nick's rising fame. The family dynamic became increasingly focused on entertainment careers, with school and normal childhood activities taking a backseat to performance training and industry networking.
To the tireless persistence of his mother and manager,
I love it.
Jane Carter.
Sacrificed my whole entire life for that child and for the other child for the sake of that family.
Jane Carter found herself managing not just one potential star, but 2. She juggled Nick's Backstreet Boys commitments with Aaron's developing solo career, often struggling to give adequate attention to either. Her other children, Leslie, Angel, and BJ, were largely left to raise themselves as Jane focused on the boys she believed could make the family rich and famous. However, this prioritization would create lasting resentment and emotional damage within the family structure. As Nick's success grew, the Carter family faced complex decisions about contracts, money management, and career direction. Jane, despite having no formal business training, positioned herself as the family's primary decision maker regarding entertainment deals. Robert, struggling with his own issues, often deferred to Jane's judgment, even when he had reservations. Nevertheless, these early financial and legal decisions would have profound consequences for the entire family's future. By 1996, the Backstreet Boys had built such a massive following in Europe that American record labels could no longer ignore them. Their second album, Backstreet's Back, featured hits like Everybody, Backstreet's Back, and As Long As You Love Me, which finally broke them into the American market. Nick Carter, now 16, became the face of the group and one of the most recognizable teenagers in. The group's success was unprecedented. They were selling millions of albums, filling stadiums, and generating hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. However, as would later be revealed, very little of this money was reaching the group members themselves. Lou Pearlman's contracts were structured to benefit him primarily, leaving the boys with a relatively small percentage of their earnings despite doing all the work. For Nick, fame at such a young age meant missing out on crucial developmental experiences. While his peers were attending school dances and learning to drive, he was traveling the world and dealing with the pressures of global stardom. The constant attention, lack of privacy, and adult responsibilities thrust upon him would later contribute to significant psychological and behavioral problems. Simultaneously, 9-year-old Aaron Carter was launching his own career with the help of his mother's management and his brother's connections. His debut album, released when he was just 9, showcased his natural talent and charismatic personality. However, it also marked the beginning of his childhood being sacrificed on the altar of fame. The album's success meant that Aaron would spend his formative years touring, recording, and performing rather than attending school or forming normal childhood friendships.
Yeah, we just do 2 minutes. Are you excited when you're going on stage?
Pretty much, yeah. Right now, yeah.
What are you doing in your free time when you're not on stage? Are you going to school like normal boy?
Aaron's touring schedule was particularly intense for someone so young. He would perform night after night in different cities, often staying up late and sleeping in tour buses or hotels. The lifestyle was glamorous on the surface, but it meant that Aaron had no stability, no consistent friendships, and no opportunity to develop a sense of self outside of his performer identity. Nevertheless, the family viewed this as an investment in their future financial security.
My ultimate goal is to be a marine biologist because that's my dream, and I've always wanted to be one, and I always wanted to be a discoverer and, go around the world, see different things,
Aaron's formal education suffered dramatically due to his touring commitments. While he had tutors and attempted to keep up with his studies, the reality was that his education was constantly interrupted by performance obligations. This educational disruption would later contribute to his difficulties in making sound financial and personal decisions as an adult.
For years, Nick and his growing family lived primarily in Los Angeles. More specifically, they're a sprawling compound in the neighborhood known as Hidden Hills. Nestled inside a gated
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Aaron Carter, and it's my crib. Come check it out.
The Carter family's lifestyle transformed virtually overnight. The modest Florida home was replaced by luxurious mansions, expensive cars filled the garage, and A-list parties became their new reality. Jane Carter went from working as a bartender to managing million-dollar careers and hobnobbing with industry executives. Nevertheless, beneath the glamorous surface, cracks were already forming in the family foundation. The sudden influx of wealth created new pressures and conflicts within the Carter family. Disagreements about how money should be spent, who controlled the finances, and what constituted appropriate expenditures became common. Robert Carter, who had struggled with financial instability for years, found it difficult to adjust to the family's new economic status and his wife's increasing control over their finances.
Chris Wyndham, Human Nature magazine, here with Aaron Carter and his lovely mom, Jane. Two of the stars of Marriage Boot Camp Family Edition. Stars?
Jane Carter's transformation was perhaps the most dramatic. She went from being a working-class single mother to managing some of the most successful young entertainers in the world. However, her lack of formal business training and experience in entertainment management would later prove problematic. She made decisions based on intuition and maternal instinct rather than sound business principles, often with devastating consequences for her children's long-term well-being. Jane Carter positioned herself as the family's manager, controlling both Nick and Aaron's careers with an iron fist. However, this decision would later become one of the most controversial aspects of their story. The line between motherhood and business became dangerously blurred, with Jane making decisions that benefited the family financially but often harmed her children emotionally and psychologically. As both Nick and Aaron's careers flourished, the complexity of managing their business affairs increased exponentially. Jane found herself negotiating contracts worth millions of dollars, making decisions about tour schedules and recording commitments, and handling media relations. However, her children's emotional and psychological needs often took a backseat to business considerations. The family dynamic became increasingly transactional, with love and approval seemingly tied to professional success and financial contribution.
Let's talk about the other half. How did it all begin? I would say it began about 2 years ago. I initially started as a solo project, and I wanted to come out as a solo artist and everything. And my management at the time auditioned these guys, and I grew really close with them. And I'm like, you know what? It shouldn't just be about me.
Meanwhile, the other Carter children, Leslie, Angel, and BJ, watched from the sidelines as their brothers received the majority of their parents' attention and resources. Leslie, in particular, harbored dreams of her own music career, but found it difficult to compete with her brother's established success. This favoritism and neglect would later contribute to significant emotional problems and resentment within the family.
Mac is the most reckless driver. Oh my God.
You almost killed.
One of the most significant and controversial relationships in Aaron's young life was with Michael Jackson. The king of pop took Aaron under his wing when Aaron was around 10 years old, inviting him to Neverland Ranch and treating him like family. For Aaron, who was struggling with the pressures of fame and the lack of normal relationships in his life,
Before we will take a stand, how many children will have to cry before we do what we can?
Jackson saw something of himself in young Aaron, another child thrust into the spotlight at an early age. Dealing with pressures that most adults couldn't handle, their relationship was built on mutual understanding of the unique challenges that come with childhood fame. Jackson provided Aaron with advice about the music industry, but more importantly, he offered him understanding and companionship during a
love life. What are your thoughts on everything Michael's been going through and all the accusations now against him?
I think it's stupid, because I know for a fact he likes girls. Trust me.
When Michael Jackson was accused of child molestation in 2003, Aaron Carter stood by his mentor without hesitation. His public defense of Jackson was both brave and controversial, showing a loyalty that would characterize many of his relationships throughout his life. Aaron's unwavering support for Jackson demonstrated how deeply their relationship had affected him, and how desperately he needed the stability and understanding that Jackson had provided. However, this support also demonstrated how the entertainment industry had shaped his worldview from an incredibly young age, making it difficult for him to see situations objectively. By 2001, the Backstreet Boys decided to take a hiatus after years of non-stop touring and recording. Nick Carter, eager to establish his own identity separate from the group, launched a solo career with his album Now or Never. The project represented his attempt to mature artistically and prove that he could succeed independently of the Backstreet Boys brand. However, the transition from boy band member
Just something about you. Way I'm looking at you, whatever. Keep looking at me.
Unlike Justin Timberlake, who successfully transitioned from NSYNC to solo stardom with the help of innovative producers and a carefully crafted image evolution, Nick struggled to find his footing. His rock-influenced sound didn't resonate with audiences the way his pop ballads had, and his attempt to project a more mature image felt forced and inauthentic. The album's commercial failure was a devastating blow to his confidence and self-worth. Nevertheless, this professional setback would pale in comparison to his personal struggles that were just beginning to emerge.
First solo effort since 2002. Why the long break?
I was doing tours with the Backstreet Boys. I had albums that we had released. We had to do those cycles as well.
His solo career sent Nick into a spiral of self-doubt and destructive behavior. He had been accustomed to success since childhood, and the experience of professional failure was something he was ill-equipped to handle. His response was to turn to alcohol, drugs, and increasingly reckless behavior as a way of coping with disappointment and the pressure to maintain his public image.
No jail time for me. I'm not going to jail. Court date, January 14th. Get the out of here. We're going to start with the 3 violations.
The year 2003 marked a turning point for the Carter family, when 16-year-old Aaron made the shocking decision to fire his mother as his manager. In a move that sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, Aaron accused Jane of stealing money from his earnings and making decisions that benefited her more than him. However, this was just the beginning of a family war that would play out in the public eye for years to come.
According to CNN, Aaron alleged that she took $100,000 from his bank account without his knowledge and said, "I feel betrayed by my own mother."
Aaron's decision to take legal action against his own mother was unprecedented for someone so young. He hired his own legal team and accountants to review his finances, discovering discrepancies that supported his allegations of financial mismanagement. The legal battle revealed the complex and often exploitative nature of parent-child relationships in the entertainment industry, where business interests can overshadow parental responsibilities. Jane Carter's response to Aaron's accusations was swift and defensive. She hired her own legal team and began giving media interviews to defend her management of Aaron's career. Her position was that everything she had done was in Aaron's best interest, and that his rebellion was the result of being influenced by outsiders who wanted to control his money. The public nature of their dispute was particularly painful for both parties, and marked the beginning of Aaron's lifelong pattern of public family conflicts. Robert and Jane Carter's marriage, strained by years of managing their children's careers and handling enormous amounts of money, finally collapsed in 2003. Their divorce became a highly publicized affair, with both parents fighting for custody of their minor children and control of the family's entertainment assets. The proceedings revealed years of accumulated resentment, financial disputes, and fundamental disagreements about how to raise their famous children. The custody battle was particularly traumatic for the Carter children, who found themselves caught between their parents' conflicting versions of family history. Court documents revealed allegations of alcoholism, financial irresponsibility, and emotional abuse from both sides. The children were subjected to psychological evaluations and forced to choose sides in their parents' war, an experience that would have lasting effects on their mental health and family relationships. The financial aspects of the divorce were complicated by the fact that much of the family's wealth was tied up in their children's entertainment careers. Determining how to divide assets that were technically owned by minors, managed by parents, and generated through ongoing business relationships required extensive legal maneuvering. The uncertainty and conflict surrounding their finances added stress to an already difficult situation for Nick and Aaron, whose careers were the source of the disputed wealth.
I like to sit down watching TV. We put the dining room chairs on the couch so the dog doesn't go on. This is our lamp. When things get dark, we turn it on.
The timing of Aaron's MTV Cribs appearance couldn't have been worse. Forced to showcase his seemingly perfect life just as his family was disintegrating, the episode became a painful reminder of how fame can mask deep personal trauma. Aaron, then 16, gave viewers a tour of his luxurious home while privately dealing with his parents' bitter divorce and his own legal battle with his mother. Nevertheless, Aaron maintained his professional composure.
Showtime! Showtime! You know what? I'm nervous. I don't know why.
Because I think the mental illness he has and the addiction he had, I think was controlling his life. But Aaron also was a very lonely person in his mind, you know. He had
Behind-the-scenes footage and crew interviews from that day revealed the toll the family crisis was taking on Aaron. Despite his upbeat demeanor on camera, crew members reported that he seemed stressed, tired, and emotionally fragile. The contrast between his public persona and private struggles illustrated the pressure that young entertainers face to maintain their image regardless of their personal circumstances.
Aaron and Nick Carter mom arrested for battery after alleged dispute over TV volume. May 3, 2023, 12:45 a.m. Pacific Time. Article by TMZ.
The family drama reached a shocking climax in January 2004 when Jane Carter was arrested for breaking into her ex-husband's home and physically attacking his girlfriend. The incident, which required Aaron to call the police on his own mother, demonstrated how far the family had fallen from their golden years. Jane's arrest made national news and further damaged the family's already tarnished reputation.
Aaron Carter's mom has been arrested for battery, according to the Hernando County Sheriff's Office.
Aaron's 911 call, later released to the media, revealed the terror and confusion he experienced during his mother's violent outburst. The teenager, who had been performing for millions of fans around the world, was reduced to pleading with emergency dispatchers to send help as his mother wreaked havoc in his father's home. The incident marked a point of no return in the family's dysfunction and Aaron's relationship with his mother.
Jane Schneck was taken into custody on Friday night after arguing with her husband. The Hernando County Sheriff shared in a statement with Access Hollywood, she, Jane, was arrested for domestic violence on 4/29. Sheriffs were called to the residence just before midnight on 4/28, where Jane was in a verbal dispute with the victim.
The aftermath of Jane's arrest prompted several attempts at family therapy and reconciliation, but the damage was too extensive to repair. The Carter children found themselves choosing sides, with some supporting Jane and others backing Robert. These divided loyalties created lasting rifts that would never fully heal, even after subsequent tragedies brought the family together temporarily.
Also tonight, TMZ has obtained excerpts from the 911 calls from people expressing concerns about singer Aaron Carter, who was found dead in his home on Saturday.
Calling about Aaron. I was just calling to see if there's any way you guys could send an officer to go check in on him. The thing is, he's a very heavy drug user, and he's...
Meanwhile, Nick Carter was battling his own demons. His 2005 DUI arrest exposed his struggles with alcohol, problems that had been building for years as he tried to cope with the pressures of fame and his family's dysfunction. The arrest was just the tip of the iceberg. Nick's drinking had become increasingly problematic, affecting his professional commitments and personal relationships. However, his legal troubles were only part of a much larger pattern of destructive behavior that was spiraling out of control.
That's my guy. Okay, I need to know what you guys want to have done.
If they were just had too much to drink and were, no harm, no foul or whatever. I don't want to jam up the state's attorney's desk and everything like that. But man, these guys were a special breed of
I get you. I get you. Here's what I need.
Nick's alcohol abuse began affecting the Backstreet Boys' professional commitments. He missed rehearsals, showed up late to recording sessions, and his behavior during live performances became increasingly erratic. His bandmates found themselves covering for him while privately expressing concern about his well-being. The group's management was forced to consider contingency plans in case Nick's problems made it impossible for him to continue performing.
That's saying a lot in a Key West bar. That is unbelievable. If you walk into a Key West bar in a condition, and according to the bar staff,
unbelievable.
That's what happened. They said, we are not going to serve you, Nick, and your friend, and then that's what kind of touched off the whole fight.
Well, yeah, guys, so we started working on it. It was on Wednesday night, and we were told that Nick Carter and a friend, like you said, went to Hog's Breath, which is a famous bar in Key West.
Nick's relationship with Paris Hilton became tabloid gold, but it also exemplified his descent into Hollywood's party culture. The relationship was built on mutual attraction to the spotlight and a shared love of nightlife, but it was also toxic and destructive. Both parties were dealing with their own personal issues, and their relationship became a vehicle for acting out rather than finding healthy companionship. Nevertheless, the media attention surrounding their romance kept Nick in the headlines, even as his professional career stagnated.
Don't spit in my face. I'm sick of you doing this to me. Stop it. Me? Stop it. You're gonna respect me. Stop it. What are you doing? You're gonna respect. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? You're gonna respect my house. Get out of my room. What are you doing? No, I'm just. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
The constant media attention surrounding Nick and Paris's relationship added another layer of stress to Nick's already complicated life. Paparazzi followed them everywhere, documenting their public appearances and sometimes capturing their arguments and disagreements. The relationship became a performance for the cameras rather than a genuine emotional connection, further contributing to Nick's sense of isolation and alienation from authentic relationships.
To be nice to you. Been there at your beck and call when you need somebody to clean your room so you can have girls come over.
If you got something, discuss it with the psychiatrist.
You guys also can't put everything else on everybody else. You gotta learn to talk about it with each other.
Discuss it with the psychiatrist. That's why she's coming.
Whatever.
That's why she's coming. So anyways, how about them Buccaneers?
When Paris Hilton appeared in public with visible bruises shortly after their breakup, Speculation ran wild about domestic violence. Nick vehemently denied any wrongdoing, while Hilton remained mostly silent about the incident, leading to conflicting reports and endless media speculation. However, the controversy highlighted how Nick's personal life had become increasingly chaotic and potentially dangerous, both for himself and those around him.
Aaron, I can't believe you after all I've done to be nice to you. I've been there at your beck and call when you need somebody to clean your room so you can have girls come over.
If you got something, discuss it with the psychiatrist.
You guys also can't put everything else on everybody else. You gotta learn to talk about it with each other.
Discuss it with the psychiatrist.
In a desperate attempt to heal their fractured relationships and capitalize on their remaining fame, the Carter family agreed to appear on the reality show House of Carters in 2006. The show was positioned as an opportunity for the family to work through their differences and rebuild their bonds. However, instead of showing a family in recovery, the show exposed their deep-seated resentments, unresolved conflicts, and fundamental inability to communicate effectively with each other.
Finally seeing you again for the first time in like a long time.
Well, so let's not stop it now. Okay?
We're gonna eat some good food today. We're gonna have a good time. I really missed you.
I missed you too. No, that's behind us. Let's put it behind.
You're like my best friend.
The tension between Nick and Aaron was particularly painful to watch throughout the series. Nick, struggling with his own addiction and mental health issues, tried to assume a protective older brother role while simultaneously dealing with his own problems. Aaron, now 19 and dealing with his own career struggles, resented Nick's attempts at guidance and saw them as hypocritical given Nick's well-publicized problems. Nevertheless, their arguments revealed years of accumulated hurt, jealousy, and misunderstanding that couldn't be resolved through reality television.
Ups and downs, a lot of like one day it was a big fight and like they would come in the room and be like, we're gonna divorce, who do you want to live with? And then the next day it was like they didn't even remember it, but we did.
I remember we would go into our rooms and we would kind of like just hide in the closet and cry. And
What were the incidents that really stands out in all of your minds that defines what your family means to you?
Leslie Carter, the middle child who had been largely overshadowed by her famous brothers, used the show to voice her frustrations about her place in the family. Her emotional vulnerability and the discussions about her cancelled music career painted a tragic picture of dreams deferred and family dynamics that prioritize some children over others. Leslie's segments were particularly heartbreaking because they revealed a young woman desperate for recognition and love from a family that seemed incapable of providing either.
It's all good, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. No
Disregard the cut.
It's all good.
Behind-the-scenes accounts from the show's production revealed that the Carter family's problems were even worse than what appeared on television. Crew members reported constant arguments, substance abuse, and emotional breakdowns that were too intense or legally problematic to air. The show's editors were forced to craft a narrative that was dramatic enough to be entertaining, while not revealing the full extent of the family's dysfunction.
Hiatal hernia. I have a stress condition. It's an eating disorder. How would you feel every 2 seconds seeing a tweet? You have AIDS. Go die. Oh, look at this meth head. Oh, meth kills. Crack kills. Look at my teeth. Beautiful.
Following the reality show, Aaron Carter's life took a dramatic turn for the worse. His career stagnated as he struggled to transition from teen heartthrob to adult artist. But more troubling were the signs of his deteriorating mental and physical health. Fans and industry observers began noticing significant changes in his appearance, behavior, and public statements that suggested serious underlying problems.
This was before streaming. This is when people had to go purchase the CD.
Yeah, no, it was before the internet existed, all that stuff. I mean, basically back in the day, you could almost compare
Aaron's social media presence became increasingly erratic and concerning during this period. He would post long, rambling statements about his family, his career, and various conspiracy theories. His interviews became difficult to follow, with him jumping between topics and making claims that seemed disconnected from reality. These behavioral changes suggested that Aaron was dealing with significant mental health issues that were not being properly addressed or treated.
Welcome back, guys. So in our last episode, we did mention we were going to be talking about this. So for those who are not part of the Backstreet Boys fandom or anything like that and didn't know, there is a new documentary that came out like 2 weeks ago,
April 15th.
maybe? April 15th. And it is called The Carters Hurts to Love You.
Aaron's physical transformation during this period was particularly alarming. He lost a significant amount of weight, his facial features became gaunt, and his overall appearance suggested poor health and possible substance abuse. Fans expressed concern on social media, but Aaron's inner circle seemed either unwilling or unable to intervene effectively. His physical decline mirrored his mental and emotional deterioration, creating a downward spiral that would continue for years.
Right? Yeah. Look at my teeth. Yeah. Look at my face. I'm not a meth head. I've never touched it in my life. It's body shaming. It is the toughest thing to deal with.
When you're looking in the mirror and you see yourself, is it hard to see how much you've changed?
Oh my God, it hurts so bad. It hurts. It hurts so bad.
Aaron's legal troubles mounted throughout the late 2000s and early 2010, creating a pattern of arrests, court appearances, and legal settlements that dominated his public image. From drug possession charges to domestic violence allegations, driving violations, and financial disputes, his name became synonymous with legal problems rather than musical achievements. Nevertheless, each arrest seemed to cry out for help rather than representing malicious criminal intent. Aaron's drug-related arrests revealed the extent of his substance abuse problems. Despite multiple attempts at rehabilitation and public commitments to sobriety, he repeatedly relapsed and found himself back in legal trouble. His pattern of arrest, treatment, temporary sobriety, and relapse became predictable and heartbreaking for those who had followed his career since childhood.
Instagram likes and comments to what we used to do back in the day, which was mall signings.
Right, exactly.
So that's how you would connect pure to pure, face to face with people. Even if it would just be a second of time, it's no different than what correlates with Instagram, a second of time.
No, that's a great way to look at it.
So, and I did so many mall signings.
Aaron's romantic relationships became increasingly troubled during this period, with multiple partners seeking restraining orders and making allegations of domestic violence. Wrote she, while Aaron denied these allegations, the pattern of troubled relationships suggested that his personal problems were affecting his ability to maintain healthy connections with others. His relationships became part of his public drama rather than sources of support and stability.
About 8 years old. My brother's Nick Carter. He was in the Backstreet Boys. Being a little brother, I wanted to do the same thing. When I first went on tour, my career really started skyrocketing. This is our other yacht. This is the family yacht. My career, I've definitely grossed over $100 million for sure. This is the boat that my parents go out on.
Despite earning millions as a child star, Aaron found himself facing financial ruin by the early 2000s and 10s. Poor financial management, family disputes over money, legal fees, and his own spending habits left him nearly bankrupt. The young man, who had once been able to afford luxury cars and expensive homes, found himself unable to pay basic bills and was forced to file for bankruptcy protection.
Doesn't really strike people as sobriety. True sobriety means that you're really not on any substances. When somebody has an addictive process already in their history, marijuana affects your brain in a very different way than somebody who actually has no problem. So somebody wants to use it medicinally, if they've never had addiction issues, that's not a problem.
Court documents related to Aaron's bankruptcy revealed the extent of his financial problems. He owed money to the IRS, various creditors, and family members, with total debts exceeding his assets by millions of dollars. The financial mess was complicated by years of poor record-keeping, questionable business decisions, and the complex web of family financial relationships that had never been properly documented or resolved.
I'm in Hollywood, California, on the famous Sunset Strip. I'm on my way to see Aaron Carter, one of the biggest pop icons in the early 2000s.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Aaron Carter, and this is my crib. Come check it out. I'm 27 years old now, but it all kind of started when I was about 8 years old.
Aaron's attempts to rebuild his finances were both admirable and heartbreaking. He took jobs that paid far less than his previous earning power, appeared at fan conventions and small venues, and tried various business ventures to generate income. His willingness to work and attempt comebacks showed a resilience and dignity that contrasted sharply with his public struggles and legal problems.
It's skyrocketing. This is our other yacht. This is the family yacht. My career, I've definitely grossed over $100 million for sure. This is the boat that my parents go out on. And now I'm basically broke. I'm sitting in here in an apartment because I can't keep money in my bank account. My parents didn't put me in charge of that stuff. I was this little kid, that was all I did.
Aaron's attempts to rehabilitate his image and address his problems through reality television often backfired, showcasing his struggles with addiction and mental health issues to national audiences. Shows like Marriage Boot Camp and various celebrity rehabilitation programs provided him with platforms to address his problems, but they also exposed his vulnerabilities to public scrutiny and judgment. Nevertheless, these appearances also revealed a young man desperately trying to reclaim his life and career while dealing with complex personal issues.
You know, the meaning of success, and it's happiness. Happiness is really the meaning of success. You know, that's what it really comes down to.
That was Aaron on our live show back in 2017. With new music to promote, he had his sights set on a clean and drama-free future. But claims of increased bizarre behavior has his family worried.
Aaron's reality television therapy sessions provided glimpses into the depth of his psychological trauma and the complexity of his family relationships. Viewers witnessed breakthrough moments where Aaron seemed to gain insight into his problems, but these were often followed by relapses and setbacks that demonstrated how difficult recovery can be for someone with his history of trauma and addiction. Nick Carter's problems also continued to escalate during this period. Multiple restraining orders, additional arrests, and allegations of assault painted a picture of a man unable to control his impulses or behavior. His legal troubles were often overshadowed by Aaron's more public struggles, but they were equally serious and suggested that the Carter family's problems were systemic rather than isolated to one individual. However, Nick's wealth and fame often seemed to shield him from serious consequences, allowing him to continue his destructive patterns without facing meaningful accountability. Assault allegations against Nick were particularly serious and threatened to destroy what remained of his career and reputation. While Nick denied the allegations, and they were never proven in court, they added to the pattern of troubling behavior that had characterized his adult life. The allegations also highlighted the power dynamics and potential for abuse that exist within the entertainment industry, particularly involving young, vulnerable fans.
I'm Aaron Carter.
I'm Jane. I'm Aaron's mother. And I'm here to resolve some issues that Aaron and I have between us.
I'm here to do the exact same thing. I've been performing since I was 7, so I've endured quite a bit of humiliation.
Despite his personal struggles, Nick continued performing with the Backstreet Boys throughout this period. The group's reunion tours were successful financially, but fans and industry observers could see the toll that years of fame and personal turmoil had taken on him. His performances were often inconsistent, and his behavior during interviews and public appearances was erratic. Nevertheless, music remained one of the few constants in his chaotic life and provided him with both income and a sense of purpose.
Lauren and I have both had similar issues with our families.
Now with the wedding, our family issues are coming up more often. So we went to our therapist to discuss them.
I kind of put a barrier up that I was never going to get married, and that was based on my family.
Backstage footage and interviews with band members revealed the extent to which Nick's personal problems were affecting the group. His bandmates were forced to walk a careful line between supporting their friend and protecting their own interests and the group's reputation. Management decisions often revolved around managing Nick's unpredictable behavior and ensuring that his problems didn't completely derail the group's commercial success.
Documentary, The Carters Hurts to Love You, premiering April 15th on Paramount+.
Fame and money destroyed our family.
I said to him, "What are you doing, Aaron? Stop."
Angel, with all the trauma that your family has gone through, I wonder why you wanted to put it out there for all of us.
Initially, when this opportunity presented itself, it was an immediate no.
During this period, Leslie Carter's battle with addiction became increasingly apparent to those close to the family, though she managed to keep many of her struggles out of the public eye. Unlike her famous brothers, Leslie didn't have the financial resources or professional support systems that might have helped her address her problems. Her struggles with substance abuse reflected the broader pattern of dysfunction within the Carter family, but her relative anonymity meant that she faced these challenges largely alone.
So Aaron, I know that you mentioned that this is what mental health looks like. And I would disagree. I looked at your medical list from before and now. I mean, these things have contraindications.
Of course.
And they cause possibly things like serotonin syndrome.
Right.
And difficulties with concentration and memory. And so there's all of these things that could be happening. And I know that you're saying that you're clean and sober.
Leslie's attempts to revive her music career during this period were marked by false starts and disappointments. The music industry had moved on from the teen pop era that had made her brothers famous, and she struggled to find her artistic voice in a changing landscape. Her relationships with her siblings remained strained, particularly with Nick, whose absence from family events and apparent indifference to her struggles deepened her sense of isolation and abandonment.
Aaron Carter.
Yeah, Nancy, you remember Aaron. This guy was huge back in the day. He sold millions of records, and we all watched Aaron on Dancing with the Stars. But a massive drug addiction ruined everything. His love life, his career, and he told me just how it all went downhill so fast.
When I was doing Dancing with the Stars, I developed an addiction to Xanax, because of stage fright, actually.
The Carter family bonds, already weakened by years of conflict and trauma, continued to fracture during this period. Public feuds played out on social media, with family members taking sides and airing grievances in increasingly public ways. The family that had once been united by their shared success now seemed held together only by their shared dysfunction and mutual resentment.
I'm Victoria Saw here at the Fox 5 Update Desk. We just got word into our newsroom that pop star Nick Carter will likely have to face a assault lawsuit in California where the alleged assault took place. A court denied Carter's request to move the lawsuit to Nevada. The alleged victim's attorney said since the assault took place in California, he will have to face justice.
Jane Carter's problems continued to escalate during this period, with additional arrests and erratic behavior that further alienated her from her children. Her relationship with Aaron remained complicated, as he alternated between defending her and expressing anger about her past actions. The other Carter children maintained even greater distance from their mother, creating a pattern of broken relationships that would persist for years.
We were working on the clothing line together. He was doing music. When Prince was born, Aaron was doing great. He was making videos.
Money doesn't make happiness. Money doesn't equal success.
As Aaron's career prospects continued to dim, his attempts to maintain relevance became increasingly desperate and controversial. He made shocking statements about his personal life, engaged in public feuds with other celebrities, and used social media to generate attention through increasingly outrageous behavior. These tactics occasionally succeeded in generating headlines, but they also further damaged his reputation and made it even harder for him to be taken seriously as an artist.
And people see different sides of you.
Right.
When you're huffing versus when you're not, when you're sober versus when you're not.
Right.
And they're gonna maybe sometimes make different judgments about what they're seeing and then tell you that you have a diagnosis, and perhaps you don't. And even some of those medications that you're taking don't actually address some of the diagnoses that you're saying you have.
Aaron's financial desperation led him to participate in increasingly questionable business ventures and partnerships. He was often taken advantage of by handlers and business associates who promised him quick money but delivered only further complications and legal problems. His lack of stable management and trusted advisors left him vulnerable to exploitation at every turn.
When Aaron passed, Angel here, the twin of Aaron Carter, needed to do something, and she called, she says, I have to do something. I need to make something positive out of this tragedy. I'm like, well, I have a stage. What do you want to do? So please welcome Angel Conrad.
Thank you so much, guys.
The entertainment industry, which had once embraced the Carter brothers as golden boys, began to distance itself from their ongoing problems. Former collaborators, managers, and industry executives who had once courted their business now avoided association with the family name. This abandonment created a vicious cycle where the brothers' behavior became more erratic as their professional opportunities diminished. The Carter brothers' struggles stood in stark contrast to other child stars who had successfully transitioned to adult careers. These successful transitions often involved strong support systems, careful career management, and stable family relationships, all elements that had been missing from the Carter family dynamic. The comparison highlighted how the entertainment industry's treatment of child stars could lead to vastly different outcomes depending on the support structures in place. By 2016, Aaron Carter's mental health had deteriorated to an alarming degree. His social media posts became increasingly incoherent and paranoid, filled with accusations against family members and wild conspiracy theories. His physical appearance continued to decline, with dramatic weight loss and visible signs of poor health that concerned even casual observers. His behavior in public became so erratic that venues began canceling his performances, further limiting his ability to earn income. Aaron's mental health struggles were complicated by multiple psychiatric diagnoses and his resistance to consistent treatment. He was diagnosed with various conditions including bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and anxiety disorders. but his compliance with medication and therapy was sporadic at best. His distrust of mental health professionals and his tendency to self-medicate with illegal substances created a dangerous cycle that prevented him from getting the stable treatment he desperately needed. The Carter family faced their most devastating blow in January 2012, when Leslie Carter was found dead in her upstate New York home at the age of 25. The official cause of death was determined to be an accidental overdose of prescription medications. Leslie's death sent shockwaves through the already fractured family and highlighted the deadly consequences of untreated addiction and mental health issues.
Sometimes I get confused when I wake up.
Were you guys really close, you and Leslie?
Leslie and I were very close. Leslie and I, she was my best friend, you know? You know, we went through a lot of stuff. Leslie, you know, had some things that she was going through, but if you watch House of Carters, which I've been doing lately too, and I've been watching Leslie a lot on it.
Nick Carter's decision not to attend Leslie's funeral created a permanent rift within the family. Aaron and other family members viewed his absence as the ultimate betrayal, while Nick claimed that the family's toxic dynamics and their blame of him for Leslie's problems made it impossible for him to be there. The funeral became another source of family conflict rather than an opportunity for healing and closure. In the weeks before her death, Leslie's social media posts revealed a young woman in deep despair, struggling with addiction and feeling abandoned by her family. Her final posts contained veiled cries for help that went unheeded, highlighting the family's inability to support each other during times of crisis. The tragedy of her death was compounded by the realization that intervention might have been possible if the family had been able to overcome their dysfunction and offer meaningful support.
Went downhill so fast.
When I was doing Dancing with the Stars, I you know, developed an addiction to Xanax, you know, because of stage fright, actually. I developed stage fright during the show.
So here's Aaron's story. It all started in 2009. He went on dancing to try to restart his career. Instead, anxiety fueled his addiction.
Leslie's death had a profound impact on Aaron, who blamed himself and other family members for failing to save her. His substance abuse increased dramatically as he struggled to cope with grief and guilt. His behavior became even more erratic and self-destructive, with public meltdowns and increasingly dangerous situations that put both himself and others at risk.
Aaron Carter in tears after his DUI arrest. I'm in tears after Rihanna shut down the Valerian premiere. Plus, did internet trolls push Ed Sheeran off Twitter? Apparently everybody is feeling a lot of emotions today, folks.
Aaron's legal troubles multiplied in the wake of Leslie's death, with multiple arrests for drug possession, domestic violence, and driving violations. His court appearances became spectacles of their own, with Aaron often appearing confused, agitated, or under the influence. His failure to comply with court orders and legal requirements led to additional charges and longer periods of legal jeopardy.
Nick Carter is facing more legal trouble. The Backstreet Boys singer has been accused of assault and transferring transmitted diseases by a woman named Lauren Penley, according to documents obtained by People magazine.
Nick Carter faced increasingly serious legal challenges as multiple women came forward with allegations of assault spanning several years. The allegations painted a picture of a man who had used his fame and power to exploit vulnerable women, often fans who had trusted him. While Nick denied all allegations, the pattern of accusations and the detailed nature of the claims created a significant public relations crisis for both him and the Backstreet Boys.
Legal trouble arising for Backstreet Boys singer Nick Carter this morning. News Nation senior story editor Paula Froelich is here with the scoop. Paula, good morning to you. So a fourth woman has now come forward accusing him of assault.
Yeah, this is really disturbing. The woman says it happened in 2005. She said at first the relationship was consensual. She also says she had had no partners.
The allegations against Nick created enormous pressure on the Backstreet Boys as a group. Some fans continued to support him, while others called for his removal from the band. The group faced difficult decisions about whether to continue touring and recording with Nick, knowing that his presence might overshadow their music and create controversy at every appearance. The internal dynamics of the group became strained as members struggled to balance loyalty to their longtime friend with concerns about their own careers and reputations.
A few weeks, whenever she came to LA, she detailed that they had consensual intercourse 3 times before things took a turn when she asked him to use protection, which he refused, claiming that he was clean of transmittable diseases. In another incident, she went by his place to watch movies, but he told her no because the only reason she was there was to have intercourse. Penley alleged that the assault took place forcefully on his bed despite her saying no multiple times. Carter failed to use protection to prevent the spread of STDs, being cautioned to keep it a secret because no one would believe her. He allegedly apologized sometime later, going on to assault her once more. The lawsuit claims he infected plaintiff with various STDs, including HPV.
The Carter family relationships reached a breaking point during this period, with various members cutting ties with each other and making public statements about their estrangement. Legal battles erupted over Leslie's estate, family assets, and ongoing financial disputes. The family that had once been bound together by shared success and mutual support now existed only as a collection of individuals connected by blood, but divided by years of unresolved trauma and conflict.
Home environment. You were a severe alcoholic and partying with multiple dudes all the time. You were a terrible mother at the end after the divorce.
Jane Carter's own struggles continued to worsen during this period, with her relationships with her surviving children becoming increasingly strained or completely severed. Her continued legal problems and erratic behavior made it difficult for her children to maintain contact, even when they wanted to help. Her isolation from the family she had once managed and controlled represented a tragic reversal of fortune that highlighted the long-term consequences of the family's dysfunction.
I definitely felt like I hit a rock bottom personally and emotionally. And that's when I thought, you know, this is a time for me to really go take some time and do some self-healing. My therapist and all the people there at, you know, the treatment center were very instrumental and definitely wanted me to dig deep.
Aaron made several attempts at rehabilitation during this period, but his efforts were often undermined by his financial desperation and his unwillingness to address the underlying psychological issues that drove his addiction. His appearances on reality television shows focused on addiction and recovery became opportunities to earn money rather than genuine attempts at healing, creating a cycle where his problems were exploited for entertainment value rather than being properly treated.
Some of those medications that you're taking don't actually address some of the diagnoses that you're saying you have. So there's a mismatch here. I mean, do you sometimes feel that way, that like perhaps it can be dialed in a little bit better so that you can be your best self?
Oh, absolutely. I absolutely believe, and that's why it's all trial and error.
Right.
You know, it's all trial and error, and you know, I had a psychiatrist tell me one time that there's no happy ending to Xanax.
Right.
Right?
You understand this. So psychologically, you may not be dependent on Xanax, but the physiological reaction that people have to Xanax is one of the concerns. And you've been on it for
Aaron's social circle during this period consisted largely of other troubled celebrities, enablers, and people who were financially benefiting from his problems rather than helping him solve them. His lack of genuine support and stable relationships made it nearly impossible for him to maintain sobriety or address his mental health issues effectively. The people around him often had their own agendas and were more interested in exploiting his fame than helping him recover.
difficulties with concentration and memory. And so there's all of these things that could be happening. And I know that you're saying that you're clean and sober, but marijuana being part of your regimen doesn't really strike people as sobriety. True sobriety means that you're really not on any substances. When somebody has an addictive process already in their history, marijuana affects your brain in a very different way than somebody who actually has no problem. So somebody wants to use it medicinally, if they've never had addiction issues, that's not a problem. When somebody has had an addiction history, you can't use marijuana because it has totally different effects on your brain.
So guess what's happening?
What?
I'm quitting smoking weed.
The media's coverage of the Carter family evolved during this period from sympathetic portrayals of former child stars struggling with fame to increasingly sensationalized reporting that exploited their tragedies for entertainment value. The family's problems became a source of tabloid fodder and social media content, with their personal struggles being consumed as entertainment rather than being viewed as serious mental health and addiction issues that deserved compassionate treatment.
Well, it was a mixture of a lot of different things. It was the lifestyle I had been living, and you know, just dealing with the emotional problems, you know, from my past, you know, and having a family and being, you know, divorced from going from this big family unit to all of a sudden there being no family.
Fan reactions to the Carter family's struggles were mixed, with some expressing genuine concern and calling for intervention, while others seemed to consume their problems as entertainment. Social media campaigns emerged both to help and to mock the family members, highlighting society's complicated relationship with celebrity culture and mental health issues. The public's fascination with their downfall often overshadowed any genuine efforts to provide support or resources. The entertainment industry's role in creating and perpetuating the Carter family's problems became increasingly apparent during this period. The industry that had profited from their talent and youth offered little support when they needed help, instead often exploiting their problems for additional profit through reality television and tabloid coverage. The lack of accountability and support systems within the industry contributed to the family's continued decline. The Carter family's story began to be viewed within the broader context of entertainment industry tragedies involving child stars and family dysfunction. Their struggles highlighted patterns of exploitation and lack of support that had affected many other families in similar situations. Calls for industry reform and better protection for child performers gained momentum, though meaningful change remained elusive.
Aaron Carter, the pop sensation of the early 2000s, encountered significant challenges in the past 5 years. Struggling with addiction, financial troubles, and media scrutiny, he faced a steep decline. Despite multiple rehab stints and public setbacks, Carter sought help to rebuild his life. In recent years, he worked towards recovery, returning to music and engaging with fans. His journey showcases his resilience, reminding people of his determination to overcome personal and professional hurdles.
In his final years, Aaron Carter's interviews became increasingly concerning as his mental decline became undeniable. His statements often contradicted themselves within the same conversation, and he displayed signs of severe paranoia and delusion. His physical appearance continued to deteriorate, and it became clear to anyone watching that he was a man in desperate need of intensive professional help that he was either unable or unwilling to accept. Aaron's custody battle over his infant son became a public spectacle that highlighted his unfitness for parental responsibilities. Court documents revealed the extent of his substance abuse, mental health issues, and unstable living conditions. The legal proceedings provided a stark contrast between Aaron's public claims about his recovery and sobriety, and the reality of his continued struggles with addiction and mental illness. On November 5th, 2022, Aaron Carter was found dead in his California home at the age of 34. The circumstances of his death reflected the tragic trajectory of his life, with initial reports suggesting an accidental drowning in his bathtub, likely related to his ongoing substance abuse and mental health issues. His death marked the end of a life that had begun with such promise, but had been derailed by family dysfunction, childhood trauma, and an entertainment industry that had failed to protect him.
Knowing that substance is what killed your sister.
It's not okay. It's not okay.
You know that you're in danger. Forget the entertainment business. Forget that.
I know that. I know.
Okay, good.
I know that.
Good, because
that's why I came to you.
Good.
That's why I came to the doctors. I've been to multiple psychiatrists. I've been to multiple therapists, but nothing has ever helped me truly work the way that this is starting to, and this show is starting to.
Don't you think it's time?
I do think it's time. There's no want to.
Yeah.
I'm going to. I mean what I say. I mean what I say.
Nick Carter's statement following Aaron's death expressed grief and regret, while also acknowledging the complicated nature of their relationship. The family's public grief was mixed with years of unresolved conflict and mutual recrimination, making their mourning process as complex and dysfunctional as their relationships had been in life. Public reaction was similarly mixed, with some expressing sympathy and others viewing Aaron's death as an inevitable conclusion to a life of poor choices and self-destruction. To truly understand the Carter family's tragic trajectory, we must examine the foundational cracks that existed long before fame entered the picture. Robert and Jane Carter's relationship was itself a powder keg of dysfunction, marked by financial instability, substance abuse issues, and a toxic dynamic that would ultimately be magnified by their children's success. Their marriage represented a cycle of generational trauma that neither parent had adequately addressed before bringing children into the world.
Forget like that kind of stuff, you know? And I don't, you know? I see it what it really is.
He went to jail, and is he still around? Is he?
He's in jail.
He's in jail still.
Yeah, but I heard he's getting off. So
he's going to be out soon.
Yeah, I heard he ratted somebody out.
And is going to get out because of that.
Or something.
His
cellmate, he convinced some guy to confess that he murdered some senator's son.
Oh, and they gave him time off for that. If he said that he wanted to,
I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but whatever.
If he said he wanted to meet with you, if he said he goes, hey, Aaron, let's meet and reminisce about old times. Would you meet with him, go out to dinner, hang out with the guy? You would.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I got a lot of respect for Lou still, you know, with all the things that he did, and
Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a family systems therapist who has worked extensively with entertainment families, explains, "What we see in the Carter family is a textbook example of how unresolved trauma gets passed down through generations. When parents haven't dealt with their own childhood wounds, they unconsciously recreate those patterns with their own children, often with devastating consequences. The Carter parents' decision to thrust their children into the entertainment industry wasn't just about opportunity, it was about validation, financial security, and living vicariously through their offspring's achievements. This dynamic created an environment where the children's individual needs and emotional well-being became secondary to the family's collective success and survival."
Told Us Weekly, "I am so pleased to have my boy back. That Prince and I will not be celebrating Christmas with Aaron together as a family has been weighing heavily on my heart for some days." Carter had said that he and his ex-girlfriend had lost custody of their kid owing to domestic violence and substance abuse in an interview with The Sun published in September. His account of his month of outpatient therapy at Lion Rock Recovery suggests that he did so voluntarily. How does Melanie reclaim her son's custody?
The entertainment industry's treatment of child performers in the 1990s and early 2000s was particularly predatory, with few meaningful protections in place for young stars. The Carter children entered an ecosystem designed to extract maximum value from their talent while providing minimal support for their psychological and emotional development. Record labels, managers, and promoters saw dollar signs, not vulnerable children who needed protection and guidance. Former child star and advocate Mara Wilson, who successfully transitioned away from Hollywood, offers insight. The industry tells children they're special, that they're different from other kids, but what they're really doing is isolating them from normal childhood experiences and healthy development. The Carter family's story isn't unique, it's tragically common. The financial arrangements surrounding child performers often create additional layers of exploitation and family dysfunction. When a child becomes the primary breadwinner, traditional family hierarchies become inverted, creating psychological pressure and responsibility that no child should bear. The Carter children weren't just performers, they became financial lifelines for their entire extended family. The media's treatment of the Carter family, particularly Aaron, represents some of the most exploitative coverage in entertainment journalism history. From his early teens through his final years, Aaron was subjected to relentless scrutiny that focused more on his struggles and failures than on his humanity. The press created a narrative of inevitable doom that became self-fulfilling, as Aaron internalized society's expectations of his failure. Dr. James Harrison, a media ethics researcher, notes, "The coverage of Aaron Carter's struggles represents everything wrong with celebrity journalism. Instead of treating his mental health issues and addiction with the seriousness they deserved, the media turned his pain into entertainment, contributing to his isolation and despair." The rise of social media added another layer of toxicity to the Carter family's public existence. Fans and critics alike felt entitled to comment on every aspect of their lives, creating an environment where private struggles became public spectacles. The constant judgment and unsolicited advice from strangers created additional stress and paranoia, particularly for Aaron, who increasingly saw enemies everywhere.
He also starred in the reality series House of Carters with his brother, Backstreet Boy Nick, and competed on Dancing with the Stars. This year, he returned to his musical roots by launching a North American tour. Aaron Carter is in the house on The Morning Show. Good morning.
How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. Just as we were in the break and coming up with that video, and you looked at it and you said, you know, you're 25 and you've been in this business for 18 years.
Yep, 18 years.
What kind of life is like? So, did you go to school?
Yes, I did, of course. Yeah, actually.
Rather than just having tutors or things like that, you were still in regular school every day?
I started off in regular school, and I stopped at about 2nd grade.
While Nick and Aaron's stories dominated headlines, the other Carter children suffered their own forms of collateral damage from their family's dysfunction and public scrutiny. Karen Carter, the eldest daughter, struggled with her own identity and relationships, always living in the shadow of her famous brothers. Her attempts to maintain privacy and normalcy were constantly thwarted by her association with the Carter name. Bobbie Jean Carter, whose death from a drug overdose in 2023 added another tragic chapter to the family's story, represents the forgotten victims of celebrity family dysfunction. Her struggles with addiction and mental health issues mirrored those of her siblings, but without the public platform or resources that fame occasionally provided. Her death underscored the reality that the Carter family's problems extended far beyond their two most famous members.
10-year-old Aaron Carter knows how to shake it. He's been watching his big brother Nick perform as long as he can remember. You see, Nick is a Backstreet Boy, one of the music world's hottest new acts. It was inevitable that Aaron would follow in his famous big brother's footsteps.
We've always wanted to do a American tour together, so we finally got the chance to do it.
A former neighbor of the Carter family recalls, people always focused on Nick and Aaron, but all those kids were affected. You could see it in how they interacted with each other, how they couldn't just be normal siblings. Everything was always about the business, about the next opportunity, about managing their image. The romantic partners of the Carter men often found themselves caught in the crossfire of family dysfunction and public scrutiny. Lauren Carter, Nick's wife, has had to navigate not only her husband's personal struggles, but also the public's perception of her role in the family's dynamics. Her attempts to support Nick while protecting their children from the family's toxic patterns represent a delicate balancing act that few outsiders truly understand. Melanie Martin, Aaron's former fiancée and the mother of his son, became a lightning rod for criticism and speculation following Aaron's death. Her relationship with Aaron was complicated by his mental health issues, substance abuse, and the public's intense scrutiny of their every interaction. The custody battle over their son, Prince, highlighted the complex legacy issues that persist even after Aaron's death.
Like ratted somebody out.
And is going to get out
Senator,
because of
son
that.
Or something. He like some,
If he-
his
if-
cellmate, like he convinced some guy to confess that he murdered some senator's son.
Oh, and they gave him
He
a
gave a
time
plea
off
bargain
for that.
some-
If he said that he wanted to,
I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but whatever. Okay.
if he said he wanted
So
to
sue
meet
me.
with you, if he said he goes, hey Aaron, let's meet.
Family therapist Dr. Rebecca Torres explains, when you marry into a family with this level of dysfunction and public scrutiny, you're not just marrying one person. You're inheriting generations of unresolved trauma and ongoing public judgment. The pressure to fix things or to distance yourself creates impossible choices. The Carter grandchildren represent both hope and concern for breaking the cycle of family dysfunction. Nick Carter's children with Lauren and Aaron's son Prince are growing up in an era with greater awareness of mental health issues and childhood trauma, but they also inherit the weight of their family's public legacy and the genetic predispositions that have plagued previous generations. The question of how to protect these children from their family's toxic patterns while still honoring their heritage creates ongoing challenges for the surviving Carter family members. The children's futures will largely depend on the adults in their lives' ability to learn from past mistakes and create healthier environments for growth and development.
I thought, this is a time for me to really go take some time and do some self-healing. My therapist and all the people there at the treatment center were very instrumental and definitely wanted me to dig deeper, where I found myself repeating the same things over and over. But after 2 months of doing it, it was really healthy for me. I learned a lot about myself. I also learned a lot about other people.
In therapy, Aaron was really able to dig deep and realize how issues within his family life have manifested themselves and affected him, namely his sister's death in 2012, as well as his father's death last year.
Once I lost my father, I didn't realize the impact it had on my life.
Following high-profile cases like the Carter family's struggles, various attempts have been made to strengthen protections for child performers. The Coogan Law in California, originally passed in 1939 and updated multiple times, requires that a portion of child performers' earnings be set aside in trust accounts. However, these laws have significant loopholes and enforcement challenges that continue to leave young performers vulnerable.
The best thing I can take from it is that I had good relationships with them all the way up until they weren't here anymore.
The Carter family has been in the spotlight for decades, and that is something that has taken a toll on them individually and as a unit. Aaron talks about how fame changed them, and it kind of changed the dynamic.
I can see it being easy for someone who's not in the industry to say that there's all this pressure, but there's pressure with everybody in each person's life, so there's always going to be pressure. So it's just about how you deal with it and how you're able to cope with it. I mean, for me, there was a lot of different things that happened, but who knows? Maybe it wasn't the industry, maybe it was just...
Assemblyman David Chen, who has championed child performer protection legislation, acknowledges the ongoing challenges. The entertainment industry is incredibly powerful and has significant resources to resist meaningful reform. While we've made some progress in protecting children's earnings, we've been less successful in addressing the psychological and emotional support these young people need. The patchwork of state laws governing child performers creates additional complications, as families and production companies can easily relocate to jurisdictions with more lenient regulations. This regulatory arbitrage ensures that the most vulnerable children often end up in the least protective environments. The entertainment industry's resistance to meaningful reform stems from both financial considerations and cultural attitudes that view child performers as commodities rather than vulnerable individuals. Production companies, record labels, and talent agencies have significant financial incentives to maintain the status quo, as stricter regulations would increase costs and reduce profitability.
It's literally in a bubble, as you say. You know, I was so much in a bubble that when that bubble popped, I just kind of went crazy. And I started to really, I really turned it into Aaron's party.
Yeah, right.
In a sense, you know,
Right.
and I started having house parties and having keggers and having all kinds of people come over and, you know, and I'm not gonna say, you know, I didn't enjoy that. I had a great time, you know, and I still have a good time, you know, but the things that were problematic in my life that I needed to get out of my life, that's what I went to rehab for.
Yeah.
I stopped it, and then all of a sudden, like, my whole life started changing. I quit smoking cigarettes a year ago, and when that happened, all of a sudden I gained like 30 pounds, and like.
Recent cases of child performer exploitation demonstrate that the lessons of the Carter family's tragedy have not been fully absorbed by the industry. Young performers continue to face inadequate supervision, exploitative contracts, and insufficient mental health support, suggesting that systemic change remains elusive. Entertainment attorney Sarah Bloomberg notes, "The industry talks a good game about protecting children, but when it comes to implementing meaningful changes that might affect their bottom line, the resistance is fierce. They're willing to make cosmetic changes, but not the fundamental reforms that would actually protect these kids." The rise of social media and digital platforms has created new opportunities for child exploitation that didn't exist during the Carter children's rise to fame. Young influencers and content creators face many of the same pressures as traditional child performers, but with even fewer protections and oversight mechanisms in place. The democratization of fame through social media means that more children than ever are being thrust into public attention without the traditional industry gatekeepers, who might provide some level of protection. Parents can now monetize their children's personalities and lives directly, often without any external oversight or support systems. Dr. Amanda Foster, who studies digital child exploitation, warns social media has created a new category of child performers who are even more vulnerable than traditional entertainers. These children often have no professional representation, no legal protections, and no separation between their public and private lives. Recent neuroscientific research has begun to illuminate why childhood fame can be so psychologically damaging. The developing brain is particularly vulnerable to the stress, overstimulation, and identity confusion that often accompany early fame. The Carter children's struggles with mental health issues may have been partially rooted in the neurological impact of their early fame experiences. Dr. Michael Torres, a developmental neuroscientist, explains, "When children are exposed to the intense stress and overstimulation of fame during critical developmental periods, it can literally alter their brain structure and function. The areas responsible for emotional regulation, impulse control, and stress management can be permanently affected. The constant performance demands, irregular schedules, and adult responsibilities placed on child performers can disrupt normal neurological development, creating vulnerabilities that persist into adulthood." This scientific understanding helps explain why so many former child stars, including the Carter siblings, struggle with addiction, mental health issues, and relationship problems later in life.
Oh, and they gave him time off for that. If he said that he wanted to,
I don't know if I was supposed to say that, but whatever.
if he said he wanted
So
to
sue
meet
me.
with you, if he said he goes, "Hey, Aaron, let's meet and reminisce about old times," would you meet with him, go out to dinner, hang out with the guy? You would.
Yeah,
You would.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I got a lot of respect for Lou still, you know.
The Carter family's dysfunction wasn't just the result of individual problems. It represented a complex system of trauma, bonding, and codependency that made it nearly impossible for family members to break free from destructive patterns. Their shared experiences of fame, exploitation, and public scrutiny created bonds that were simultaneously loving and toxic. Family systems therapist Dr. Lisa Rodriguez notes, "In families like the Carters, trauma becomes the glue that holds relationships together. Family members become addicted to the drama and intensity, making it extremely difficult to establish healthy boundaries or seek individual healing." The public nature of the Carter family's struggles added another layer of complexity to their relationships. Their conflicts and reconciliations became entertainment for others, creating additional pressure to maintain dramatic storylines rather than genuinely working toward healing and resolution.
It put a lot of money into everybody as well. So I think people forget like that kind of stuff, you know? And
Yeah.
I don't, you know? I see it what it really is.
He went to jail, and is he still around? Is he?
He's in jail.
He's in jail still.
Yeah, but I heard he's getting off. So
he's going to be out soon.
yeah, I heard he ratted somebody out. Like,
and is going to get out because of
son
that.
or something. He like some
His
cellmate, like he convinced some guy to confess that he murdered some senators.
Aaron Carter's struggles with both addiction and severe mental health issues represent a common but poorly understood phenomenon in the entertainment industry. The self-medication of underlying mental health problems often leads to substance abuse, which then exacerbates the original psychological issues, creating a destructive cycle that becomes increasingly difficult to break. Dr. Patricia Williams, an addiction psychiatrist who has worked with entertainment industry clients, explains, when you have someone with underlying bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, or severe trauma trying to function in the high-pressure environment of the entertainment industry, substance abuse becomes almost inevitable as a coping mechanism. But the substances make the mental health issues worse, creating a downward spiral. The stigma surrounding mental health issues in the entertainment industry often prevents performers from seeking appropriate treatment until their problems become too severe to ignore. By that point, the combination of addiction and mental illness often requires intensive, long-term treatment that many performers are unable or unwilling to pursue.
His battle with substance misuse began at a young age, and he revealed that he started huffing at just 16 years old after being introduced to it by his sister Leslie. The dynamics within Aaron's family played a significant role in his struggles. His family had a history of addiction and mental health issues, which added pressure to his life. The fame he experienced from a young age only intensified these challenges. The tragic loss of his sister Leslie in 2012 and his father Robert in 2017.
The Carter family's story gains additional perspective when viewed alongside other celebrity families who have faced similar challenges. The Jackson family's dysfunction, exploitation, and tragic outcomes share many parallels with the Carter experience, suggesting that these patterns are systemic rather than unique to any particular family. Drew Barrymore's early struggles with addiction and family dysfunction, followed by her eventual recovery and success, demonstrate that alternative outcomes are possible with proper support and intervention. Her ability to break free from destructive family patterns and build a healthy adult life offers hope that the cycle of celebrity family dysfunction can be interrupted. The contrast between families like the Carters and those who have successfully navigated childhood fame highlights the importance of protective factors such as stable family relationships, appropriate boundaries, quality education, and strong support systems outside the entertainment industry. Examining how other countries approach child performer protection reveals significant variations in cultural attitudes and legal frameworks. Some European countries have much more restrictive laws governing child performers, including mandatory education requirements, limited working hours, and psychological support services. The contrast between these approaches and the relatively permissive American system suggests that the Carter family's tragedy might have been preventable in a different regulatory environment. However, it also raises questions about the balance between protecting children and preserving opportunities for those who genuinely want to pursue entertainment careers.
Family support and understanding can play a crucial role in recovery. Aaron's openness about his struggles encourages conversations about these important topics, emphasizing the need for compassion and support in the journey toward healing.
The Carter family's story is deeply embedded in American cultural narratives about success, family loyalty, and individual responsibility. The cultural mythology surrounding the American dream often obscures the systemic factors that contribute to family dysfunction and individual failure, leading to victim blaming rather than meaningful reform. Cultural sociologist Dr. Jennifer Park observes, American culture celebrates child prodigies and young achievers while simultaneously blaming them when they struggle or fail. We want to believe that success is purely the result of individual talent and hard work, so when young performers struggle, we assume it's due to personal failings rather than systemic problems. This cultural blind spot makes it easier for society to consume the entertainment provided by troubled young performers while avoiding responsibility for their welfare and protection.
10-year-old Aaron Carter knows how to shake it. He's been watching his big brother Nick perform as long as he can remember. You see, Nick is a Backstreet Boy, one of the music world's hottest new acts. It was inevitable that Aaron would follow in his famous big brother's footsteps.
We've always wanted to do an American tour together, so we finally got the chance to do it.
The media's treatment of the Carter family evolved alongside broader changes in celebrity journalism and public attitudes toward privacy and mental health. The transition from relatively respectful fan magazine coverage to invasive tabloid journalism to real-time social media scrutiny created an increasingly hostile environment for struggling performers. The Carter family's story spans this entire evolution, from Nick's early coverage as a beloved boy band member to Aaron's final years as tabloid fodder and social media spectacle. This progression illustrates how media culture became increasingly predatory and exploitative over time.
And his father Robert in 2017 left him emotionally devastated. This grief led him to use substances as a way to cope with his pain. Aaron was open about his mental health struggles, which included depression, anxiety, and multiple personality disorder. He sought treatment multiple times, but the road to recovery was not easy. He faced relapses that highlighted the difficulty of managing addiction alongside mental health concerns.
Former tabloid editor Marcus Thompson reflects on the industry's approach. Looking back, I think we lost sight of the human element in celebrity coverage. These were real people with real problems, but we treated them like characters in an ongoing soap opera. The Carter family's pain became our content, and we didn't think enough about the consequences.
Did put a lot of money into everybody as well. So I think people forget like that kind of stuff, you know? And
Yeah.
I don't, you know? I see it what it really is.
He went to jail, and is he still around? Is he?
He's in jail.
He's in jail still.
Yeah, but I heard he's getting off. So
he's going to be out soon.
yeah, I heard he
The financial incentives driving celebrity media coverage create systematic biases toward sensationalism and exploitation. Stories about celebrity struggles, breakdowns, and family conflicts generate more engagement and revenue than positive coverage, creating the economic pressure to focus on negative aspects of performers' lives. The Carter family's dysfunction was particularly valuable to media outlets because it provided ongoing dramatic content that could be updated regularly with new scandals, conflicts, and tragedies. This economic reality made it profitable for media companies to contribute to the family's problems rather than supporting their recovery.
And his father Robert in 2017 left him emotionally devastated. This grief led him to use substances as a way to cope with his pain. Aaron was open about his mental health struggles, which included depression, anxiety, and multiple personality disorder. He sought treatment multiple times, but the road to recovery was not easy. He faced relapses that highlighted the difficulty of managing addiction alongside mental health concerns.
The rise of social media amplified the media's negative impact on the Carter family by democratizing the ability to comment on and criticize their lives. What had once been limited to professional journalists and photographers became accessible to anyone with an internet connection and an opinion. Aaron Carter's final years coincided with the peak of social media toxicity, where his every post, appearance, and statement was subject to immediate and often cruel public judgment. The 24/7 nature of digital media meant that he could never escape the scrutiny and criticism that contributed to his paranoia and isolation. Dr. Maria Santos, who studies the psychological effects of social media, notes, "The human mind isn't equipped to handle constant judgment from thousands of strangers. For someone already struggling with mental health issues, this kind of ongoing scrutiny can be literally devastating."
We thank you for being a part of the Backstreet family for 29 years. We thank you for all the love for all the years.
Nick Carter in tears as his band, the Backstreet Boys, honors his late brother Aaron, who died on Saturday at the age of 34.
I'm used to people coming up to me, oh, hi, Nick's little brother, how you doing? So, you know, it's kind of, like I said, you know, I get used to it, but...
The Carter family's story represents the true cost of fame when it comes without proper support, boundaries, and protection. Their journey from beloved entertainers to tragic figures serves as a reminder that success in the entertainment industry doesn't guarantee happiness or stability, and that childhood fame can be particularly dangerous when it occurs within dysfunctional family systems. The loss of Leslie and Aaron Carter represents not just personal tragedies but systemic failures that continue to affect other families in similar situations. Their deaths serve as stark reminders that the problems they faced were preventable with appropriate intervention, support, and industry reform.
Being authentic, and it had to be that in order to work.
Yeah.
And the gift that you guys have all given me, I'm so incredibly thankful.
The Carter family's story has contributed to growing awareness of the need for better protection and support systems for child performers and their families. Advocacy groups, mental health professionals, and some industry leaders are working to create meaningful reforms that could prevent similar tragedies in the future. However, the pace of change remains frustratingly slow, and new forms of child exploitation continue to emerge through digital platforms and social media. The fundamental challenge of balancing protection with opportunity and profit with welfare remains largely unresolved. Angel Carter's advocacy work and her efforts to break the cycle of family dysfunction represent hope that the Carter family's tragic legacy doesn't have to define future generations. Her willingness to speak publicly about her family's struggles and her own recovery journey provides a model for how survivors can transform their pain into positive change. The curse of the Carters ultimately wasn't supernatural or mystical. It was the entirely predictable result of childhood trauma, family dysfunction, inadequate mental health support, and an industry that prioritized profit over human welfare. Understanding their story as a preventable tragedy rather than an inevitable fate is essential if we hope to prevent similar stories from repeating in the future. Their legacy challenges us to examine our relationship with celebrity culture and our responsibility to protect vulnerable individuals, especially children, from exploitation and harm. The entertainment industry's continued struggle to address these issues suggests that more Carter-like tragedies may be inevitable unless meaningful reforms are implemented, and society changes its approach to consuming celebrity culture and supporting struggling public figures. The true measure of whether we've learned from the Carter family's tragedy will be seen in how we treat the next generation of young performers and their families. Will we continue to consume their entertainment while ignoring their welfare? Or will we finally take meaningful action to protect the vulnerable individuals who bring joy to our lives? The Carter family's story ends in tragedy, but it doesn't have to be meaningless. If their pain can contribute to meaningful change that protects other families from similar fates, then perhaps their suffering will not have been entirely in vain. The choice of how to honor their memory and whether to learn from their tragedy now rests with all of us.